Today we have a fantastic millionaire interview for you. But before we get to that, have you signed up for the webinar this Thursday yet? And if you haven't, let me slap you around. No, why not? Well, number one, if you didn't know about it, all right, I'll give you a pass. But it's this Thursday, May 3rd. You can go to eventualmillionaire.com/webinar to sign up to be there live with me or to get the replay, of course. I know you are a very, very busy business owner, but this webinar is meant for people that are making more than 150,000 gross revenue a year. I typically work with those types of business owners. And I know the core systems that you need that you most likely are not doing right now. I know this because I work with a ton of you and you're not doing all of them. We suck at it. It's called Cloning Yourself, how to expertly build and scale your business. All we care about is you using your time as wisely and your resources as wisely as humanly possible so you can have less stress, so you can have more cash flow, so you can understand that it's okay to sleep at night and take time off. But you don't feel like that unless you have these core systems in place. So please make time in your schedule. I know that's a tough thing for you, and that's why you need to be here. So May 3rd, make sure you go to eventualmillionaire.com/webinar to sign up, and I hope to see you live. You can ask me anything. Take care. Hey, it's Jaime, and before we dive into the show today with my good friend Liam, he wanted to give away a free ticket to an amazing conference he has coming up in Bali in June. It's called Running Remote. You can check it out at runningremote.com. It's an amazing giveaway. So if you go to eventualmillionaire.com/remote, you can enter your name, your email, and enter why. Now watch the video first, but enter why you should be one of the people that go to this conference for free. Okay, it's for people that are managing remote employees and they have amazing speakers like the founders of Buffer, GitHub, Todoist. It's insane. And the tree house that it's in, it makes me so jealous. I wish I could go. But you can for free. So go ahead and go to eventualmillionaire.com/remote, enter that information, and we will pick one lucky winner. But you have to promise to come back and tell me all about it, please, because it sounds like an amazing, amazing conference. So enjoy the podcast today where we talk all about AI, running remote, and some amazing stuff coming up. Take care.
Potent advice and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to The Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I'm Jaime Masters, and today on the show, we have my good friend Liam Martin. He runs staff.com, timedoctor.com. He also is having a really amazing conference coming up in Bali, which I highly recommend people attend because Bali's fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So you have a theme, a running theme, and we've had one of your co-founders on also for timedoctor.com, which is amazing. Tell us a little spiel of what they actually do so we get it.
Sure. So what we do is basically a accounting software for your time. So you wouldn't not use QuickBooks to be able to manage or Xero to manage what you do inside of your business. We basically manage your time. So right now I have I have interview with Jaime. That's the current task that I've been running right now. It's been running for 6 minutes and 22 seconds. And at the end of this podcast, I'll be able to measure all of the websites, applications, mouse movements, keyboard movements, all the metadata that connects to this particular podcast and compare it to the other 50, 100 podcasts that I've done and start to figure out whether a signal is occurring inside of that data so that I can maximize my own personal productivity. And then we also use it to maximize remote teams' productivities. So we have 80 plus people in 27 different countries all over the world, and we use our tool to be able to measure not just how long you worked, but how efficiently you worked, which is really the most important part of working, in my opinion.
Heck yeah, we need to actually be effective on the things that we're doing, and we can't know that. You're a super geek on data too, and AI and crazy stuff. I know we sort of got into that, which was really exciting because most people don't even care or know where it's going. So tell me a little bit about what you actually do with this data. So go you for actually using your own product. Yay. And because not a lot of people do that, by the way.
Yeah.
So thank you. But what sort of things can you glean from it? So if someone were to install it right now, because I've used Rescue Time, I've used a whole bunch of other things, and we try to pull out the data, but it's hard to tell, especially if you're not really good at hashing out data, what to do with it. So what can we do from it?
So to a degree, whether you're manually analyzing it or whether you're analyzing it with some of our machine learning tools. So as an example, we can predict when someone is going to quit their job about 6 months before they do with about a 90% accuracy rate. So that's something, yeah, I mean, that's something that's kind of spooky when you think about artificial intelligence, and it's only starting. We have such a massive data set. We have hundreds of thousands of people all over the planet that use our software and measure their entire work days. So what we do is we analyze that data, and then we're able to build signals, or we're able to analyze signals inside of that data and then produce a result. So theoretically, I could predict when you're going to scratch your nose. It's very easy for me if I have enough data points to be able to collect that outcome. So if I can collect, let's say, 1,000 of your nose scratches, Jamie, I can predict when you're going to scratch your nose next, dependent upon the input variables. So
and how do you figure that out? Because is this your sweet spot of figuring that stuff out? Do I have to blink my eye before I scratch my, or what are the things that you find out in order to find out if somebody quits their job or not? Because I want it to be helpful for even if people, I mean, of course they should get your software for sure.
Sure.
And if they don't, because it's meant for teams that are a little bit bigger than, one or two or three, right? Or you tell me.
Sure. I mean, we have people that just use it for themselves, and we have people that use it for thousands of employees inside of their business. But
now I want to scratch my nose, just so you know. I can't stop thinking about scratching my nose. Continue though.
Fundamentally, just to give you a crash course on what artificial intelligence is, and I'm going to give you the layman's version because that actually is the only version that I truly know and is able to communicate easily to people. Think of my master's was in econometrics and statistics, and for the last 200 or 300 years, there's been something called regression statistics, a regression algorithm, which is, I think that because you wear a gray sweater today, you are going to scratch your nose. So I'll come up with that input variable, which is, oh, Jamie's wearing a gray sweater today. She's going to scratch her nose. However, with machine learning, we're getting into what's called Bayesian algorithms and a bunch of other type of neural net algorithms that don't necessarily have the human define what is important. Instead, the computer looks at hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands in our case, or millions of variables, like how long was your lunch break? What did you decide to paint your house with or your office with? It looks like it's a grayish, you've got a gray top on, maybe there's a correlation there. A little bit of mermaid hair. Is that something that connects to scratching your nose today? And all of these different variables may change it may bring up your chance of scratching your nose or bring down your chance of scratching your nose by an infinitesimally small amount. But all of those cumulative additions actually result in a really fantastic model. So just to give you an example, one of the first ever AI companies, Palantir, when 9/11 happened, the chance that 9/11 happened was absolutely remote for anyone that was using a regression algorithm. But for Palantir, if I remember correctly, it was 1 in 7. Wow. So that's artificial intelligence is completely changing the way that we live our lives. And if you are not understanding how artificial intelligence works, if you're an Uber driver in the next 10 years, you're going to be out of work because those cars are going to be driving themselves. It's all using the same base technology that we're currently using inside of our particular business. And it's going to be implemented in every single aspect of human society. So I believe that for anyone that really is in any way interested in the subject, I highly suggest you go check it out. It just literally there's a couple great things that you can check out on YouTube. Literally just, how does AI work on YouTube? There's 5 or 6 really great explainer videos that you can go check out at the very top of the search results for that. That's usually what I give to a new salesperson as an example in the team that's really trying to understand how AI works. But in essence, what it does is it analyzes so many different variables that a human could never do it. And instead, a computer can do it perfectly. And they can add in and divide in all of these different variables. So that's what we use. So if I were to go through all of those different variables for you, it would take probably a couple hours for us to discuss it just because there's just so many things that the AI collects.
See, I would know when my dog is barking so I can mute so that way I didn't have to cut it out later. So the funny thing is that most people don't understand any of this. We're so entrenched in our own business and looking at our own little road that we aren't looking at the broad spectrum. Like I had Dan Fagella come in and start talking about some of this, and he's like, a lot of these small businesses, they're going to get their butt kicked and they don't realize it coming up.
Yes.
So tell me what they should be. Yes, they should definitely go on YouTube and look it up, but what should they be doing inside their business? How soon are we talking about actually having to pay attention to having huge competitors with tons of data being able to predict and scoop up all the customers because of it?
Sure. So number one, any repetitive task that a human currently does will no longer be done inside the decade.
Crazy. Which is amazing because finding admins is a pain in the butt also.
Yes.
So I love it and hate it at the same time.
That actually is a huge danger for our business model, by the way, because our business model is measuring a lot of people that work remotely, and a lot of those people do customer support. They do chats. Chat support is gone. Probably chat support is going to be gone within the next 2 to 3 years. Ticket support is probably going to be gone within the next 2 to 3 years. I would say phone support will be gone within the decade. We're getting very close to the point where a computer can have a phone conversation with a human being and it's indistinguishable. This is happening, kind of in the beta alpha stage, but it's going to be happening and happening very quickly. Everyone thought that their smartphones that you wouldn't be able to like synchronous on a synchronistic level, on a very fast level, translate languages, right? They thought that was impossible. But Google just recently, their new translation app, they're using AI and they've been able to shrink for every 500 lines of code, they're now at 1 line of code because they're using AI.
Wow.
And I was just recently in mainland China where they don't allow Google anywhere, but Google worked offline right inside my phone. Didn't have to connect to the cloud at any point because the code is so much more efficient because it's using just a completely different understanding of how software is built and works. So all of those businesses will be done, and they'll be replaced with something that will cost you nothing. So actually, after we get through this process, it's going to be great. You'll be able to push a button, and within 30 seconds, an Uber or a Lyft or something else will show up in front of your house. And you will get in that car and it'll be able to take you wherever you want. And that'll be great. But you'll no longer buy a car. You'll no longer be driven by a driver. All of these things will disappear. Driving is 12% of the US workforce at this point.
Wow.
So what happens to those people? Who knows? But I know for me, the average cost of a vehicle is $9,000 a year. That is something that you're able to just pull off your P&L instantly. Right. So all of those variables are going to become. So the future is very exciting, but also a little scary. And we're just a small part of that. And we've recognized that if you should be investing probably about 20% of our budget right now was about a year and a half ago invested directly into artificial intelligence, which was our big bet. So for us, we believe that this is going to be the future, and that if you're not taking advantage of this now, you're going to be left behind. And the problem with most technologies like this, you won't feel like you're being left behind until you're completely left behind.
Okay. Yes. Let's talk about that for a second. Because I chat with people about this stuff a lot, and everybody makes it sound like, oh, it's so far away. Right. And I come from being a computer geek since I was little, building computers at like 15. Right. And to see how fast things go and you realize it later, like, oh, now everyone's using them. Oh, great. So the hard thing is, though, is that it's not fully adopted right now. And it's really a lot more expensive when you're trying to deal with the beginning stages of beta and alpha, and takes longer. And you want to be on the forefront, but no, you don't want to have to deal with the pain in the butt of the cost and expense 20% is a lot. I mean, it is a big bet, especially for a lot of businesses that don't have enough profit or enough resources in order to do this.
We could have built a project management system. We could have built a payroll system. We could have built a separate company, but we decided to focus on artificial intelligence. And I'll give you an example as to how things move so quickly. I have an iPad in front of me. I don't have my smartphone around. But the smartphone was invented in 2007, the iPhone.
Which is insane.
Now everyone thinks that these smartphones are just a part of our lives, right? They've actually replaced computers. there's more mobile traffic than there is actual desktop traffic. That's a decade. So, and to be honest with you, probably smartphones completely overtook desktop within 5 years. I would say, at least in my own personal circle, and I'm not just thinking about tech people. I'm thinking about in general. Like my mother, had a smartphone before she had a computer. So when you think about that, that's a 5 to 10 year swath, and these things cost $1,000 a pop. They're expensive. Once Elon comes up with a self-driving car that you don't have to buy, that just can, in essence, be leased per ride, looking at the Uber model, why would I ever want to own a car? That's an asset. That's really a bad decision, right? For your own personal P&L. So that will
add
just
up
be
though. So I have a
removed.
question on that because it doesn't add up. Even my friend who does I live in San Francisco. I'm not going to have a car. She ended up spending like 12 grand that year on a car and was like, or not on a car, on Uber. She's like, I could have bought a car there. So is it going to be because they don't have to pay drivers, blah, 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 that's going to be, the costs are going to be driven down also?
I think you're going to take 80% of the cost off that 12 grand.
Jeez. Yeah. So that makes
because
it's
here's the thing.
then. Yeah.
It's since we live in a capitalistic society, there's going to be competition.
Yep.
And you're going to have Lyft that's going to show up saying, well, you know what, we can afford to deploy these cars for $1, an hour, as an example. And literally the numbers are going to be that low, because I actually think these companies are going to build partnerships with 1 or 2 car companies.
Yep.
And I actually think car companies will cease to be a consumer product.
Wow. So more Lamborghini showing off car rides, huh?
So when you think about it, I mean, when's the last time have you ever seen a bus magazine? Like we see car magazines, but you don't see like, oh man, I'm really looking forward to the 2019, Greyhound model 238 or something like that. No one thinks about that because they're utilitarian tools. They get you from point A to point B. And I think that that's what's going to happen with consumer transportation. Wow. So that will just cease to exist, and I'll be much happier because I actually got rid of my car a couple of years ago and I switched to Uber completely, and it is much cheaper for me than owning a vehicle. So I think that that's only going to continue, and I think that you're probably going, and that's just like, that's the consumer example that everyone understands because everyone has to get around. Yeah. But this is going to impact every part of our lives, which I think is just very, as I said before, very exciting.
Yeah, well, I think it is too. And what's crazy though is I'm a business coach, right? And I give advice to people on business. And I'm like, you know what though? With machine learning and all the data, we're going to have all the data points on what people should be doing in business. When they do a startup, when they do a whatever, you can actually correlate all that and understand what would most likely work, right?
Right.
So information is going to change. Instead of reading 1,000 articles on, I think this is going to work for you, this is the newest, greatest, latest thing, then we don't necessarily have to anymore. I mean, we'll have to pay a huge price point most likely for something like that because that data is going to be expensive at first, I'm assuming. You tell me.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, but once you have competition in place, it's going to be a race to the bottom. And then everyone's going to figure out, okay, well, that's now the new bottom. We figured out the most efficient way to be able to produce this product. Much like the way that capitalism works, it's a great system for getting cheap through the door, right? Like it's so.
So what if you're the crappy So not crappy. What if you're in the crappy position of being the small business where all of the bigger businesses with tons of money are really investing in machine learning? They're going to have all the data, or they're going to be, you know what I mean? And everything else is expensive.
So the sexy part of that is whenever you see a new technological revolution happen, it's a reshuffling of the deck.
Yes.
There's an opportunity point here, right? So, I mean, Google and Facebook and Apple are some of the largest corporations in the United States at this point. 20 years ago, they weren't. Yeah. 20 years ago, they didn't exist. So there's a reshuffling of the deck. So just because these companies, you think that they've existed for all time, just because, we've always thought smartphones have always been around. They haven't. right? Just go back a couple of years and understand that it's a reshuffling of the deck. But it also is really important to understand that once you have a positive ROI on something, make hay while the sun is shining, because the process right now also of kind of corporate or technological advantages is shortening. I'd say every decade, you're probably seeing that technological advantage drop by about 50%, drop by about 50%.
Well, remember
50%.
when even just getting a website was here? Like, I remember I used to build websites when I was 15 for like companies, and they'd be so expensive and it was insane. And now anybody can have anything for like $10, literally. It's
I'm
really
across
ridiculous.
the street from Shopify, their corporate headquarters here, and those guys know how to build websites really easily. You can get one up and running in 5 minutes, and it's seamless. It's perfect. So yes, that was a huge advantage at the beginning, right? But now Shopify, and there's a bunch of other competitors in the space as well, obviously. But these companies now have a bunch of competition, and web firms are out of business.
Okay, so but that's my point. Where do we throw our chips on the table then? So we're like, okay, that's going away. So I see that you guys are doing it into AI, which is great, but the non-geeky people with crazy master's degrees in this stuff probably aren't going to go like too nutso into this, most likely. So where do we throw our, ooh, I like that phrase, maybe. Where do we throw our chips on the table? Are we like, oh, go all in on tech and cross your fingers, even if they don't know? Or what's going to still be around so that way they can look towards the future and see some, not only opportunity in the tech, but in general, what's still going to be around that you think? Be a futurist predictor for me.
Sure. So I can give you one example, which is I have a girlfriend who runs runs a bunch of mermaid schools.
Ooh.
So she's a professional mermaid. That's
That's
mermaids.
a thing? Oh, can I do that?
Yes, you can. There's a location in Austin that's opening up, actually.
No way. Are you kidding? That's a thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So,
well, I already have mermaid hair, so this is going to be great.
So I know. I saw that. So that's why I decided to pull it out. It's even the same color, too. So so understanding where service-based jobs will continue on. So if you're dealing with human beings constantly, you're not going to be in trouble. So I'll give you an example. Anyone that's doing customer support or customer success for an accounting firm or sales will continue to exist because, unfortunately, you will still need to sell to other humans. AIs will not sell to AIs, right? They'll try to get an AI to sell to a human, but it just won't work. It will work on a base level. It'll work on chat support. It'll work on ticket support, that kind of stuff. But someone who has to jump into a pool or someone who has to sell a mermaid class and then actually give a mermaid class, that business will continue to exist. I also think something like coaching will probably continue to exist far into the future because it's a human-to-human relationship. It will probably be augmented by AI. So you'll have you'll know the perfect way to do things instantaneously, but there might be 3 equally high chances of completing a task going 3 different ways. And then you and the coach will have to kind of figure out how to get to that particular point. So yeah, human related businesses will continue to exist. Like, I'm not just going to toss my taxes into an AI and get a result back, even though that actually would be fantastic.
I know, I was saying that would be what I want.
Yeah, but there'll still be a human in, like, basically garnering, protecting those particular industries. But the inside of that business will be done. So like legal discovery is actually one of those things that a lot of people don't really know. About half that industry has been replaced by AI. People don't even know that. So the most labor intensive part of a law firm is called discovery, which is you have a whole stack of documents and you've got to go through all those documents and try to figure out, well, when did Paul Manafort get mentioned by Trump in all of these emails? And maybe there's 50,000 emails. And AI has just replaced that completely. It used to be a lawyer. Now it's an AI because they can do it in a second and they can do it better than a human being. All of those types of things will disappear, but you still meet with your lawyer saying, yeah, we're going to take care of you because I know how to run this AI thing. So that's where we're going to be at.
Yeah. So, but it's low level stuff in that we have a little bit of time so we don't feel like, oh, robots are taking over the world anytime soon.
It may
Right?
not even be low level stuff. Like statistics are incredibly complicated. Being a lawyer is incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
Doing discovery is incredibly complicated. You need lots of degrees. You need about $100,000 in education to be able to get to that point. And those jobs will cease to exist. I actually think a lot of the high white collar positions, engineers, computer programmers will probably cease to exist. AI will pretty much replace everything connected to programming within the next decade or two. You may have someone that just kind of architects the application, so a product manager would still exist, but then the AI will fill in all the gaps. Just like, when you look at the current versions of, when you look at Canva as an example, Canva is really replacing a lot of Photoshop's business because you have to have a lot of tool sets to be able to do something on Photoshop. You have to understand there's a learning curve involved, but Canva, there's a lot less. So think of AI as that 10, 100x.
This is awesome. Okay. And that's the crazy thing. Like I have an Amazon Echo and it doesn't seem like it does all that much. Like I have it as if this then that, like I have as much little things as I can to try and make it really, really awesome. And it's still not that great yet. Right. And so I think a lot of people aren't, they're like, oh, I mean, it helps me add things to my calendar and my to-do list. Awesome. Right. But longer term, that stuff's going to be more and more and more and more and more. Now that it's all in your home, people are investing a lot more into it. The curve is great. Let's talk about that. Moore's Law, right? The curve is very great. Actually, can you explain Moore's Law for everybody else? Because I don't even think most people pay attention to this stuff.
Well, so if you want a perfect example is if you look at the cable industry.
I used to work in the cable industry, by the way.
Yeah. So if you just like literally there's a beautiful graph that I saw a little while ago, which was the cable industry still going up, 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 up in business. And I think about 2 years ago, they just had a complete collapse where they lost 20% one year and then they lost like 50% of their business the next year. So it's this curve that's like, oh yeah, everything's going great, everything's going great. And then all of a sudden, it's literally like a complete drop off. And that's what's going to happen for a lot of these industries. So a lot of them already know that there is there's something that's going to be happening connected to Moore's Law, connected to basically exponential growth inside of technology, which I can go back again to. So basically, Moore's Law is that I think processors double in capacity and have in price every 18 months. I think that's what it was.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. So, and that was coined in 1940s. And it's been on track the entire time. Yep. So, this iPad, which I probably bought a couple of years ago, was I don't know, $1,000 at this point. But now, realistically, the value of this iPad is $100, in part due to Moore's Law, because we can have a much more efficient processor built in. And now that we're building, qubits, and we're building a lot of other technology connected to processors, we're really kind of going to blow through that even more. And so people don't understand the importance of AI. I think the big one is going to be when it becomes smarter than us. But that's
when
not.
When do you think that is? Because the singularity and all that craziness. Yeah.
So, that's a really interesting and difficult question to answer. But I think the reason why people don't understand why they think to themselves, well, there's a human that's smart, and there are computers that are not as smart as us. Okay? The human has been this smart throughout the last 100,000 years. The computer, however, is going at this speed. Yep. So it's like there's going to be a moment in which a computer is less smart than a human. Then that computer is going to be as smart as a human. That's going to last for about a week.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's going to be infinitesimally more intelligent than a human in a month. And during that 2-month period, I have no idea what the hell is going to happen.
That's what everybody keeps talking about, right? Like, oh no, right? But yeah, do you think it's like Y2K bug way back when? You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, the calendar's going to change.
The reason why they call it a singularity is because we don't know what's going to happen on the other side, right? Because when you're in a black hole, you're at that singularity moment where basically light disappears and you can't observe anything past that point. So I'm hopeful that our AIs will just be really nice to us and treat us with respect and take care of us the same way that a parent would take care of a child. Or they could treat us like ants.
Yeah, exactly. Cross your finger. Okay, come on.
And I mean, I don't crush every ant that I see, but if an ant comes into my apartment, I crush it, right? Like I get rid of those things. I get some raid to get rid of them. So that's, who knows? But it's a very
scare everyone at the end of But
yeah,
Ray Kurzweil from the Singularity
about.
talks about 2043-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks it's a little optimistic. So we got time, people. Enjoy your life while we can. No, I'm kidding.
Let me give you a little factoid that'll scare you, which is little old us, not and we're not AI geniuses at all. We understand the technology, but we're not Palantir. We're not some of these huge companies. One thing that one of my product managers brought up that kind of terrified me is the AI is now able to tell us what type of data it needs to become smarter.
Crap.
And it can do it better than we would know. So it's saying, you know what? I need to know how long, I need to know whether, Jamie drinks Fanta or Jamie drinks La Croix. Because there's a correlation data there that I need, and I need to know what kind of drinks she drinks because this will improve the algorithm by X and X amount. Can I swear on this? That's crazy. Like, it's just like, that's like, we're at we're at like the, hey, this computer is a 33 megahertz, 486 computer level. Like, we're just so far behind where we're currently at right now, or where we will be in the future. So it's terrifying.
And you're doing it. Great. No, but that's the thing. Somebody's going to do it. So good. At least we like you, and you're doing it too. So let us know how it goes.
Yeah, and that's the negative part to capitalism as well, is that will happen. It's going to get built. You can't stop it from getting built.
Yeah.
If you have a laptop and you have any background in, computer software engineering, you will be able to build it. It will happen. So how do you Elon Musk is talking a lot about how do you control this? How do you implement government controls now to try to slow down or protect ourselves against this type of issue? Because I think it is probably the biggest challenge our human society will have in the next.
Well, and it's
years.
A world problem, not a our government problem. It's a you know what I mean? It's a who has what, and then everyone. It's the alien coming into the world,
and then the Swedes say, "Well, we're going to do it."
Yeah, exactly. And then we're like, we don't trust you, so therefore we're gonna. So good. So everybody make hay while the sun shines right now. No. Okay. So there will be also lots and lots and lots and lots of opportunities along the way that, if you're paying attention to it as a small business owner, will help you, will help your family and your children, and the growth that we see in general. Like, that's the other piece. Like, we love seeing opportunity in lots of places. The problem that I see with a lot of entrepreneurs right now is we're so focused in our own little bubble that when we don't become the captain of the ship and look for the iceberg up ahead, just in case, it's harder to avoid, right? And so what would you give, because I know we have to start wrapping up, I'll ask the last question in a second, but what would you give for advice on what a small business owner with either a handful of employees or 80 employees should do in order to find out what the next steps for their company should be?
Well,
broad question.
It's focus. It's focus. It's stay focused on what you're doing. So if you have something that's making you money right now, don't stop doing that. So a lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD on overdrive, and they want to do all these different things. And the reason why they want to do all these different things is because the moment that they actually discover something that works, they want to try to diversify. And when you look at the history of most businesses and their successes, it was primarily due to one huge move that they made that then they were able to 10x, 100x, 1000x. So what I would suggest to people is, if you have a couple employees, you're making some money. right? You can't afford employees if you don't have any money. So you're probably profitable, or maybe you've taken a round of financing, but let's just presume that you're profitable. Analyze what you're currently doing inside of the business and understand what your biggest leverage towards revenue is, and then 10x that. And don't pay attention to anything else other than that. And focus on it, let's say for a quarter, 90 days. Try to 10x that. Try to see how much further you can get. Let's say maybe that's Facebook ads, maybe that's SEO, maybe that's doing partnerships with people, maybe that's doing podcasts, whatever it is. Try to do as much of it as humanly possible and then measure that result and see where you're at. And usually 10xing something that already works is a lot easier than trying to find something new that you don't yet know if it works. And I'm all about diversifying your portfolio in terms of revenue sources, but that does divide your energy. So usually focusing on one thing, and I actually had the opposite approach a couple years ago. I thought to myself, this is stupid. We're making a couple $1,000,000 a year on this strategy, but you know what? If we just implement this strategy, then we'll make another $30 million a year off of this strategy. And I realized that if I had just taken the energy looking at the other people's backyards, the grass is always greener on the other side type of thing. If I just focused on my own business, then and the drivers inside of it, that I'd be a lot more successful.
I love that you have a tattoo of that. That seriously, that is the most common advice, no matter if you're making a couple 100,000 or millions. It's like, what's already working? Oh, do more of that. And everyone's like, that's so simple, but it really, 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 really works. Like, it's ridiculous. You have a little bit of data, use that. Don't just, throw it by the wayside and go, we're okay. We're good. Let's go here. Because it's an energy and resource management kind of thing, which I really, really appreciate.
My focus tattoo is connected to my phone.
Focus
because then you can focus on not paying attention to something like this. I actually, completely separate issue, but the distraction economy is massive.
Yes,
and
it's huge.
Now basically the most successful businesses in society are the ones that can distract you the most. So
that's
if
not
you can
good for
understand
humans. Anyway, go ahead.
It's not. It's actually really bad, which is why you want to put a tattoo saying focus and understand, is this something that you really want to do? Are you leveraging your time properly? Even inside of Time Doctor, when I go to Facebook, I'll get a pop-up saying, are you still doing interview with Jaime? Instantly, because it pulls me back into focus from distraction. So we're trying to also build tools to countermand the distraction economy, which I think is a separate issue, but really important for people to understand, particularly entrepreneurs, who I think are the tip of the spear when it goes to being distracted.
A little bit, right? And it becomes habitual. I remember I was going to one of my parents own a camp, and there's no Wi-Fi. I have no data or internet and like nothing in the middle of nowhere. I kept opening my phone, like I'd set timers and stuff and automatically go and open my email. And I'm like, it doesn't work. And I'm automatically. And I challenge anyone to try and turn everything off and see how often you pick it up, how often you do stuff. It makes you feel a little crazy, like you're controlled by your habits, which you are. It's way harder, especially for someone with ADD, to sort of turn those pieces off. So having software that can slap you around, or deleting Facebook off your phone, which I highly recommend to people. Anyway, we could go on a whole tangent on that. And I know we have to start wrapping up, which sucks. And we want to talk about your conference that's coming up too. So I'm going to ask the last question, then tell me all about the conference. Okay. So what's one action, after all of the, doom and gloom we just talked about? No, what's one action listeners can take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of 1 million?
I would probably just say, I'm going to reinforce focus. Take whatever you're doing right now. What made you money last week? Do 10x more of that this week. Just do that. Now, if you don't know where your money is coming from, that's the next thing. So if you don't know where it's coming from, figure out where it's coming from. If that means you're doing more sales meetings, do 10 times more sales meetings this week. It'll suck, but you'll be able to measure. So I'm about quantitative measurement for everything. Do 10x more of it and then see what the result is. And if you know that it works, I could guarantee you, maybe you're not going to get 10 times more money, but maybe you're going to get twice as much, 3 times as much. And that's going to be further along than you were last week.
I love it. the best advice ever. So make sure you guys actually do that and just go back through the last customers that you had and find out where they came from. This is not rocket science here. We're not like, we don't need an AI in order to actually figure out this data. It's really simplistic, typically.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about, well, you and Time Doctor and Staff.com. I think that's awesome too. But you have this whole conference coming up with friends of mine are speaking, and it's in Bali and sounds awesome. So tell everybody about that and who it's for.
Yeah, so we're running a conference called Running Remote, and you can just go to runningremote.com to check it out. And basically, what it is we've assembled a fantastic group of people. We've been really excited having these people come to the conference because they're really the top thinkers on remote teams and how to build remote teams. And so the conference is specifically on how to build $1 billion remote business. So we've got people who are making $1 million. You're more than willing to come. But we're really focused on, we basically realized we're at 80-ish people right now. And how do we get to 800 remotely? Who knows? There is no playbook. It doesn't exist because remote is so new. So what we decided to do was get everybody that has those same thoughts as well in one place. And it's a think tank on how to get best practices, get the playbook that, is really going to take us to the next level. Whether you're at 3 or 4 remote employees, or whether you're at 30 or 40, or whether you're at 300 to 400, you're all invited to come. The only people that we don't want coming, and this is something that we talked about before, which is quite difficult, is if you're not managing remote employees, or if you're not managing people at all and thinking about building a remote team, you're pretty much not invited. We don't want you to come. The reason being is we're really focusing on building remote teams. That's the real focus. And if you don't, if you're not passionate about that too, you're going to hate this conference. It's going to be super nerdy. It's going to basically be, guys like me, 500 of us in Ubud, Bali, in a fantastic venue. It's in a place called Green School, which is a network. Yeah, it's a network of tree houses made out of bamboo. And you can hold 500 people in this huge receiving hall. So that's where we're going to be doing the conference. I think it's going to be something absolutely unique. No one's ever seen something like this before. This is the biggest event that's been run in Ubud for like this space, because we haven't been able to get 500 people into a single space in Ubud. Ubud is a very, if you want to kind of like do yoga, eat vegan, and just feel really good, go to Ubud. That's kind of the place. So if you want to do that too, and also learn about remote teams, Running Remote's the place to be.
I went to Bali last year and I want to go again. I was telling you earlier, I'm like, I kind of want to go. Like I have other things during that time, but I really want to go, especially because the people that you're bringing in is like buffer, right? It's not like, some piddly little thing. I love that you're scratching your own itch and going, I want everybody to help solve this problem together, and getting them all together is the best way to do it.
Yeah, we got Buffer, we got Todoist, who's actually going to be talking about synchronous versus asynchronous communication. Ooh. And how basically synchronous communication almost destroyed his business.
Really?
We've got Flex Jobs, we've got Atlassian, we've got GitHub, GitLab. We've got a bunch of fantastic people that are coming. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's something that we've been no one's done the conference yet. And so we just decided it was a ready, fire, aim kind of philosophy where we just said, okay, let's do it and see what happens.
That's insane. And it's an amazing place. So, well, I can't go. Make sure anybody that ends up going, make sure you let me know so you can give me all the insights from what you get, because I'm going to need it too. Maybe we can chat afterwards, because I think that's you're on the forefront, and it's really interesting to not know what's next, right? And this remote team thing, people are still figuring out. Everybody's asking me and asking a bunch of other people, and there's not a lot of data. So I really appreciate you leading the charge on this. Thank you so much for coming on. Everybody take a look at, of course, timedoctor.com and staff.com. Yes, now that we've scared the crap out of you for AI stuff. But I so appreciate it, Liam. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you want to check out more amazing resources, I'm only curating the best of the best. Go check out eventualmillionaire.com. You can take the Eventual Millionaire quiz, figure out where you are in business and what you need right now. Plus, you can look at curated resources specifically for you on the new Start Here page. I'm so excited. Please join us. Please let me know if you need anything at all. I'm here for you. And have a fantastic day. Bye.